whole chad. This is not two different things, and you cannot have a limud Torah b'shleimus without having both. The Rebbe Rashab is miyas and them chutmimim. So there's a word that the Rebbe Rashab said. The Rebbe Rashab said that Chassidus that man lernen mit der Amkus von Nigle de Torah. Nigle de Torah, Nigle de Torah that man lernen mit der Chayes und mit der Brenn, Punkt wie man lernt Chassidus. Weil beide, das ist Torah Achas. So, we're coming together here for Siyum, Meseches, that there's many people in Fahrenheit, Baruch Hashem, that they learned every day, Shiyurim, with Chavruses, people themselves. So just to bring down, to mention that my grandfather, Oliver Sholem, the Naftali Yunik, he was from the Miyazdim in Montreal, a shir, a Gemara, a daf with the Bavom Kab, Oliver Sholem, and the Peretz Mochkin, they had a shir of Blood Gemara, then a Peretz Tanya, and the Rebbe, he came once to the Rebbe gave him a bottle of mashke, and he said that this is Rosaina Verbringen for the Mishtatvim in the shir Gemara, and the Mishtatvim of the shir Tanya. I remember when I was a young boy, I was 12 years old, started learning little chassidus, but Sadia Librov, he was a neighbor, he was right across the street. So he used to give a lot of shiurim and chassidus, and he was known to be a oivet and to be a emes chassid. So I remember many times I used to come in and I used to see him with the große Gemara, sitzt lernen to Gemara. And I remember was being Rapsadia, Gemara, I've learned a Maim said, learned a Maim said, but that vision is there, still there with me. To bring out an interesting vote when it comes to learning, what we want, not just to be Messiah Masechta, we want to start a Masechta, but basically what we really want to do, we want to inspire other people. We know we're living in very dark times. We're living in a time of challenges, and this is the time that we know that the Torah, the mitzvahs, this is what's going to keep us going. So it's important that each one should be mechazek. If you don't have a shir, make a shir. If you learn yourself, schlep around someone that doesn't learn. You will see how this is going to change. It changes people, changes the family, changes your neighbors. It changes the whole kehillah. So how to gedank b'negei limud Torah. What is the importance and how are we supposed to learn Torah? We find something very interesting about David HaMelech. We learned all in Pirkei Avos that it says that aloymed halacha echos, oisa echos, tzorich limnik by kovid, and we learn it out from David HaMelech. Kal v'choyla. Ma the David HaMelech shelei lamad machi teifel. We learn from machi teifel elo shnei dvarim biyad levad. Called them Rabbi Alufim Yedoi. So we all know this. So the question is, everyone asks, Achitophel, David HaMelech. What did David HaMelech learn from Achitophel that inspired us so much to say that one word that you learn from someone? What did you learn? So Chazal tell us something very interesting. That Achitophel was in shul, and David HaMelech came in, or David HaMelech was there before, and he was sitting and learning Torah. But he was sitting and learning by himself. So Achitophel came over and he told them to David HaMelech that Torah you're supposed to learn with someone else. Cherev el abadim loyal, he said, just like a cherev, like that if you want to sharpen it, you cannot sharpen it if it sits on its own. You have to have another cherev. The same thing in Torah. That if you want to learn and be matzliach in Torah, you have to have someone else to learn with you. That was one thing. Another thing we find that one time David HaMelech came in shul. He came in. The Koimos Kufa, he came in, and Achitophel saw it, and Achitophel told him, David HaMelech, kommt rein in Beis Hashem where the Shchina is, you can't come in with a kohen with skufa. You have to come in with achnoah. You have to with bowing down with a bittul. So David HaMelech, even though we know Achitofel wasn't the biggest tzaddik, but David HaMelech, he took it and he adapted it. Next time, when he in the middle of the night, when he got up, Chatzos Laila Okum, and he started saying Shirim with the Shbachas to the Eibishter. So what did David HaMelech say? So he said, Asher Yachdov Namtik Soit. He said, in order to be Namtik Soit of the Eibishter, the learning Torah, it has to be Yachdov. It has to be at least two people together. You can't do it by yourself. And then Pasuk continues, Beis Hashem Nahalach Berogesh. When you come into Beis Hashem, it has to be Nahalach Berogesh. You have to come in with a bittul. You have to come in with a achnoah. You have to come in. That's a very interesting thing that David HaMelech learned and is shared by the Chazal. And I think that this is really a yesod for all of us that we want to learn Lilmoid, L'Lamed, Lishmoid, L'Lases, that it has to be those two things. Number one, that in order to learn Torah, it's very hard to do it yourself. You always have to be part of a shir, part of Chavusa, make a Chavusa. The second thing, you have to know it's Torah Hashem, the way Chassidus teaches you. You have to learn with a bittul. So the nice Torah, you have to know that it's not your own Torah. We know in the Pirkei Avos over there, we find something also very interesting connected to the Shnayim Sheyoshvim ve'ein beinayim divrei Torah. Right? So we say that there is no, but there is Shnayim Sheyoshvim ve'ein beinayim divrei Torah. There is a Moshe Leitzin. Moshe Leitzin. So we know a lot of Mefoshim, they ask two people that they say they don't learn Torah in Moshe Leitzin. Why is it a Moshe Leitzin? So the Rebbe brings it down, and there's a lot of Mefoshim, they explain like this. Shnayim Sheyoshvim. Two people that I sit, what do you think? That they don't sit somewhere in a bar. Shnayim sheyoshvim meint that we sit in yeshiva. Yoshvim b'yeshiva and they learn Torah. This is what they do. But what is the problem if they sit and learn Torah? The problem is that ve'ein beinayim divrei Torah. That they each one learn on their own, but beinayim there's no divrei Torah. Why is no divrei Torah beinayim? So the vote is because each one thinks that his Havana Vasaga is bigger than the other one, and the other one is his Gomish. That's why it's a Moshe Leitzin, because each one makes Alatzonas from the other one. So the Pasuk in Avos, they said Sham Sheyesh V'Meiskim B'Teira Shchina Shuya, because we say Oz Nidbelu Yerei Elakim Ish Al Yereyu. Over there you see both in Yanim. Oz Nidbelu Yerei Elakim. You have to have the Indian for Yerei Elakim Nahalach Berogesh. The Indian from Bittul. And it has to be Nidbelu Yerei Elakim Ish Al Yereyu. One to the other. There's an interesting, by the way, on this Maimer Chazal, there's a beautiful quote from the Frierdiker Rebbe in a Maimer from that the Frierdiker Rebbe said by the Rebbe's either the Shabbos before the Shabbos Shalom Brochas, that the Pasuk 4:2 is Vayaksher Hashem Vayishma, and the Frierdiker Rebbe Taichli says, Oz Nidbelu Yerei Elakim Ish El Yereyu. When a Yid is in a matzah from Yerei Elakim, and in a Eifen, the Yerei Elakim is between him and the Eibishter. Ish El Re'eyu is between Adam L'Chavere, with the harvest is all the way it's supposed to be. Then is Vayaksher Elakim, Vayishma. Then it's Hert Men Elikus, Vayishma Umider Hert Elikus. That's a vote, a title for the Frierdiker Rebbe gesagt beim Rebbe Shabbos Ufuf. So, anyways, to be Messiah, that hopefully that from this evening, Yetz Hashem, is going to be a even more chizuk in all the inyanim from Limud HaTorah. If it's Limud HaTorah of Ablat Gemara, to the Shiurim of Rambam, to the Chitas of all other Shiurim. And I would like to mention that when I had this discussion with Avram Yishai Koenig, He's a young man that helped us out tremendously by the Sefer Torah with a big way. And by him holding young is a lechatchila riba. So he was telling me that how do you Lubavitch Chassidim, how do you do it that the Rebbe gave you to learn chitas, and the Rebbe gave you every time there's a farbrengen and there's a minor, and that you have to learn with other people. How do you have time for everything? How do you have time? How do you have time for anything? So the emphasis is, I want to tell you the shaylas are with the shayla. The Rebbe once mentioned this shayla, and the Rebbe said, dann im Bett, und ich sagte, jeder soll meistens sein, und mit der Teure, sagte hat nicht keine Zeit, darf gehen arbeiten, darf nehmen Care für die Kinder, the Bnei Bayis. The Rebbe said like this, a very interesting lotion that's not said many times. The Rebbe said that a Yid darf gambenen die Zeit von Essen, gambenen die Zeit von Schlafen, und gambenen die Zeit von Arbeiten, gedei wegzugeben, das Verleben der Teure. So Yashikoyach, Rabbi Yishai is also he's involved. He inspired me a lot in many things, and he's involved with the Iri Adaf, where they Baruch Hashem, they help many young light that didn't learn to learn. So we say Yagdil Torah v'Yadir and Chazak. Yashikoyach.
We have one of the special Magidei Shiurim in a daf, a day from Crown Heights at Teirasei Mispashetes. And when I heard he's not going to be here, I was a little pella. He's going to be started by video, but then I realized I guess he has much more Talmidim by video. That's one of the ways that he really special. We're going to hear from Reb Fishel Aster, Magachir of Rambam, Magachir of the Daf in Igud Avrechim Shul in Crown Heights, part of Igud Torah, and Reb Fishel Aster. Okay, I guess we're going to come back to it. Yossi for being on top. Okay, when Rebel Eunuch was mentioning the Sadia Liberov and Zayda brought back memories. I remember going in by my Zayda and Moshe Rubin also. That's now more of the basic Gemara. And just to get back to what I was saying, it's here by Yid. I heard from Rapinya al-Vashalom, just passed through Rapinya Korf. He was once Fabrengi, he was of Zeit, and he said, the Gemara sagt, Teivu lachas achrei ha'arim, lachas achrei ha'isha. That not only for the Yichur, for Bechlal, for Hirurim, it's gezinter for a Yid to go behind the lion than to go behind the woman. So, Rabbi Yechazer, that comes from Kabbalah's form, but it says, Teivu lachas achrei ha'arim, it's better to Chubatan in Chodesh Av, that Av is Mazel Ari, Mashalulachas achrei isha, to wait till Elul Tzachubatan. That Elul is Mazel Tzulam. So it's better Tzachubatan, freer Tzachubatan by Av Tzeit. Mikfinzach in Av, and the Rebbe, there's a powerful mind, and the Rebbe writes that the Rebbe wrote to someone that it seems like the Rebbe got a message that he was in a Tzeit from Avelus in the morning, and he was being this Avon too much. It was affecting him, it was Sufil. So the Rebbe wrote him, very interesting lashon. The Rebbe writes, Ich weiß nicht, wie man tut es. I don't know how you do it, but a chassid tut als besimcha, and Avelus is a din in Torah, but Mela, this also has to be besimcha. Kolshkin, the mitzvah of tshuva, when we're talking about tshuva, darf es sein besimcha. And tshuva is tashuv hei, is the neshama goes back to the way in its purest form. A purest form of a yid is that his head is malei Torah, his day is full of inyanim of Torah, everything he does is Torah, even mitzvahs, everything he does is business, and his day-to-day is all Torah. Kolshkin, when he is misyachid with Torah, and like the Alter Rebbe explains with the Torah, that is miyachid kutshav richel shchinte. Okay, so l'chaim, we should be yidden, and shuvatan means zurückkommen to the tzir von a yid, like he chazed from his Zayd, and like we all know tzir of a chas, the chas to Zayd was davened, and once he recognizes Nois Natayra, he wants his chukka is to be misyachad with the Eibishter, b'yichud nifla she'en yichud kamoy b'nimtza klal, like the Alter Rebbe is marchid in Parakeh, and er nemtzach zum leinen mit ha-gishmak. So the simcha we all celebrate today, the tzir of a yid, and going back even more, the tshuvim tech simcha, von zurikum in zu oizen, wie a yid zet ois a neshama that cleaves to Mekoira through Torah, by Reise v'kodsha brichu kol echad, and a yid has a connection through Torah to the Eibishter, l'chaim, and now, Reb Fischl Aster.
The Mishnah in Hoyres tells us, Mamze Talmid Chacham is Kaidem l'Kohen Gadol Amoritz. Meaning any Yid that learns Torah and is a Talmid Chacham comes before a Kohen Gadol, and even a Kohen Gadol with the Aveda that he does in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. As the Gemara there says, we know, and really, from where do we know this great Maila that a Yid that learns Torah and is a Talmid Chacham has? Omer Avacha B'Chanina, the Omar Kro, there's a pasuk in Mishlei that says, Yikare hi mipninim. The Torah is more precious than pninim. What's pninim? Mikohen Gadol shenichnas lefnai v'lefnim. From the Kohen Gadol it does his Aveda, lefnai v'lefnim, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And a Yid that learns Torah is on a higher target than a Kohen Gadol in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, we are celebrating the Siyum of Meseches Yuma. In this Masechta, we learned about the Aveda of the Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippur, beginning with the first Mishnah in the Masechta that spoke about the Afrasha of the Kohen Gadol, Shivas Yom Kodesh Yom Kippurim, concluding with the Mishnah that tells us about the final step of the Aveda, which concluded with the Yom Tif that they made for the Kohen Gadol, that says Simon HaKadosh. The highlight, what's the highlight of the Kohen Gadol's Aveda in Yom Kippur? The Kohen Gadol entering into the Kodesh HaKadoshim with the Bigdei Lavan to bring the Keteiras there. That's the greatest point of the Lufnei, Avaya, Titaru, the Kapara, the special Kapara of Yom Kippur, the Helix, the place in the world, the Helix, the day of the year, and with the Kohen Gadol, the Helix, the person doing this Aveda, there's nothing higher, nothing greater than this. Comes the Gemara here and tells us, besides one thing, a Talmid Chacham that learns Torah, his Torah elevates him to be on a higher level than the Kohen Gadol in the Kodesh HaKadoshim in the highest Aveda possible. The Rebbe was once masbid this as follows. There's a Mishnah in Masechet Kelim, which is also quoted in the Gemara, that tells us about the Esser Kedushas that there are, starting from the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, then the Kedusha of Aram HaMekofes Chayma, and so on, until the highest level of Kedusha, which is the Kedusha of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So now, the very fact that the Mishnah here mentions all these levels of Kedusha in one statement, in one continuation, starting from the bottom, from the level of Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, concluding with the Kedusha of Kodesh HaKadoshim, means that as great as the Kedusha that there is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there's some relation, there's some hemshech to the Kedusha that it starts in the beginning of Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, even the Kedusha of the Kohen Gadol and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, to some degree, this is a level of Kedusha that's here in the Metzias of the world. Whereas regarding Torah, the Medrash tells us that Torah is called Malaylam. Torah elevates a person higher out of this world completely. Because a person learns Torah, he enters into a space of Torah, he allows the words of Torah to enter into his mind, to digest and to understand the words of Torah. He becomes elevated into the Kedusha of Torah, which is completely Kod Malaylam. This is the reason why it says regarding Torah, Torah is not limited, not with time, not with place, not with the circumstances necessary to fulfill a specific mitzvah or to bring a particular carbon. When you learn the subject of Torah, you're elevating yourself to the Kedusha of Torah, which is Kod Malaylam, completely removed of any Metzias of Elamness, any Metzias of Seder Ishtalshalos. That's the Kodma La'olam, which the Mishnah is saying here regarding every single Yid that learns Torah, that is Kodim L'Kohen Gadol Shemichnas L'fnai V'L'fnim. This is the Gevaldige Maila that we can learn over here from this Gemara when we get to a Kviyas Sitten. And a Yid has a Kviyas Sitten Zman, a Kviyas Nefesh, to learn Torah. A person that learns Torah and becomes a Talmid Chacham, it changes your whole Metzius. You enter into a space of Kodesh HaKadoshim. And in fact, even higher than Kodesh HaKadoshim. And wherever you go, you take that Kodesh HaKadoshim along with you. You come home, you enter into your house after a shir of Torah. You bring in an environment of Kodesh HaKadoshim. So that the Heilige Stub, the entire atmosphere of the house is different. A person that learns Torah, even going out into the world, into his workplace, wherever he goes, he takes along the Torah with him. B'shas a Yid learns Torah, the Torah is in his mind. The Torah becomes unified with the person. The Yichud Nifla, Lumidat Torah, stays in the person even after he closes the Sefer and goes out into work. There's the Gemara in Sefer that says that Torah is Magona. Torah protects a person. Torah is there with the person, even the Ibn the Loyosik, even B'shas you're not learning the Torah. That's the tremendous milah of learning Torah, and especially when you have a shir kavua and Torah consistently every single day, day in, day out, no matter what day of the week it is, a Shabbos, a Yom Tov, a Yom Kippur, whatever day it is, to have always a shir kavua and limud Torah. So at this occasion where we're celebrating the Siyum of Meseches Yuma, Shechiyanu, V'Kimanu, V'Yanu L'Zman Hazeh, that we finished this Mesechta, maybe she should help. As Kain Tazreinu, we should all have the Siyat D'Shmaya, and Mamshech, to learn Torah, to join Shiuri Torah Beraben, that ever demanded and begged from us. So let us invite our friends, let's get another person, someone that we know that would definitely benefit from this, to ask him to come, to join, let him experience himself, the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Lumidat Torah, to come and learn Torah on einem in the ganze Welt mit Lumidat Torah. So the Rebbe to help him with this year, in these days, in the 9 days now, this man when we have to be Meseches and see the Mishpat Yipada, B'Shavel, B'Tzdoke, the Isafa of this Siyum of Meseches Yuma, amongst all the Lumidat Torah of Klal Yisrael, the world over, we should be Zeiche to the time when Mola, Oretz, Deis Havayah, the entire world will be sitting and learning Torah, Yom and V'Layla, Kamayim V'Yom HaChasen, may it be taken from the Yad Mamish.
Before I call up the representative of the Meseches to be Messiah, Meseches Yuma, I want to make mention of the very special Chasnei Simcha, the Meseches that are responsible for hundreds of Yidden in this Kilo Kadesh, the Rebbe Shchuna Kansi Vashem Zabracha, the Marbitze Torah in different areas in the Shchuna that ensure Tag Gain, Tag Gais, every day there's a Shir, every day Yidden learn the Torah. Rabbi Aster in the Brechen Shul, Rabbi Eppenheimer in Chevra Shas, in Martha Shul, in Rabbi Rosenstein in Geshem Shul, Rabbi Shanowitz in Shem Shul. Rabbi Shia Werner in 770 Montgomery, Rabbi Shlomo Holtzberg in Tiferes Skaning. On behalf of all the Magid Siyum, we want to be Mechabed. He's going to be Mechabed. Give me a second, please. On behalf of all the Magid Siyum, we want to be Mechabed. Magid Shir in Beis Eliezer Yitzchak, Rabbi Lustig, that was Mamid, Talmidim, Ma'alachim, V'Lerabavos, myself included, Mateo Liyira, Lenin Taylor, V'Sidim, Rabbi Hershel Lustig, and Magid Shir in Beis Eliezer Yitzchak. B'vakasha. I was asked to remind, while we're getting ready for the Siyum, that the Su'uda sponsored L'Schus and Refuah Shlema, one of the Hoik Marbitzei Torah in our Shchona, Rabbi Shai Zusia ben Chana Rachel. Please raise a cup. So Chassidische Verbring Ken Uftan Ken Mach B'chal Nish Uftan. We'll say together, Ben Chana Rachel, sorry. And that Chana Rivka? I got it wrong. A Yid was daiget, a tzendlik Yid is on learning. We all get this from the light points and from many of his polis from Manilmadu, Shabbat Refuah Shlema, Ukreva, V'Leinoida Kibala Kibena. Please say L'chaim, Refuah Shlema, Rabbi Shai Zusia ben Chana Rivka, Refuah Shlema, Ukreva now, Mamish L'chaim.
Mazel tov to all the Messiahim and all those who learned the daf. I really wasn't supposed to make the scene. I was supposed to say a few words, but I guess I'll do it. Tana Dvei Yishma. Alei Akeli B'Yam HaKippurim Yidak K'Mol Shana Kula. He should be worried all year long if he's got to live. The Im also Leshana, but if he survived the whole year and he lived the whole year, so then Adarab Muftach Loi Shu Ben Eilam Haba, because it shows that he got this pleasure even though it was something that he wasn't supposed to. Omer Nachman Yitzchak Teda Shekol Eilam Kuli Ro Who's Soveya. Everybody's hungry and he's satisfied. Because he had the pleasure, everybody in Yom Kippur is also B'tashmish, and he had the pleasure of being his Kedek. He also Dimi, Omar Mapishayas Sagi Maski, that he has even more, he gives even more, and even stronger. I just want to mention, while we're waiting for that, I just want to mention that today there's lots of shiurim in Crown Heights, in Borough Park, and all over the world. And many Yidden, they are learning. But one of the first was my Shver on the Shalom of the Ron Karp, which was mentioned earlier. That shir began in Tafshin Chov Zayin more than 50 years ago. Aster's father, Leibel Aster, was one of the Miyastim, Bel Yumik Zayder, Napoli Yumik was one of the Miyastim. And Mashver gave that shir 4 cycles of Shas. And it was a shir not just of 4 or 5 people, there were 40, 50 Mishtatim in the shir. I know that because I substituted for him a couple of times, and each time it was behind a big item. The shir included, at the end of every shir, the Peretz Mochkin would learn the shir time with Rabbim as part of the shir. Now, at that time, in the city of Montreal, there was the Siyum Hashas being held someplace in the city for all the shiurim in the city. So these 3 Yidden, Peretz Mochkin and Michelle Galitsky, I didn't mention, and Mashver, asked the Rebbe if their shir should be mishtated in the shir of the whole city, or they should make their own shir, their own siyum. And the Rebbe said, Kiposhut, for sure, they should be mishtated in the siyum of the whole city. In Tovshin Lamed Dalet, I think this was already in the next cycle, there's a Yid Montreal of Yitzchak Gnevish, and his business required him to begin traveling. So he bought from my shver a tape recorder and a machine that made, I think, 4 copies or maybe more from each tape. And from this began taping Shas. The whole garage, I remember, was full of all of these tapes. And my shvager, Baruch Kar, later on, put all of these tapes on the telephone and also on the internet. And I know that there are many thousands of Yidden who learn the daf with my shver because he explains it in such it's a goenis and pashtus, the way he explains it, with a geschmack, with a chayis, in Polish Yiddish, if you're looking for that. And there are people that learn with, I know even shluchim, that told me that they prepare the shir they have to give for their balabatim, they prepare with my shver's tapes. Do you have to have it yet? He's bringing it, so, okay. The shiurim of my shver are called Koil Abraham, and you can listen to it on the phone and in many other ways. Meseches Yuma, Meseches Yuma, it's not Meseches Yuma, but it's not non. Hadron Allah Meseches Yuma, Hadron Daitach Alon, Meseches Yuma, Daitach Alon. It's not Meseches Yuma, but it's not non. Hadron Allah Meseches Yuma, Hadron Alon. Daitach Alon, Allah Meseches Yuma, Daitach Alon. It's not Meseches Yuma, but it's not non. Die Rotsum of Nach Adonai Elohim Elohim Eseinu Sheketi Rotsum and Eseinu Ben Mezeres Imanu Elohim Hagor Yuma Bar-Popa, Rami Bar-Popa, Nachman Bar-Popa, Chololi Bar-Popa, Abimori Bar-Popa, Yafim Bar-Popa, Lachish Bar-Popa, Surchem Bar-Popa, Adi Bar-Popa, Dor Bar-Popa. Hadron Adonai Elohim Divis Rotsum Befilu Befis Amchel Beis Yisrael. Mi Ankulon Vanach Mitzatzoei Amchel Beis Yisrael Boni Yedish Nachman Eseinu I want to check many with the Sachen, Gilo, Edom, Gili, this one, the Kachel, Mama, Yevish. The Edom Yashka, the Dach, the Mom, the Son, the Machatan, and then the Kachel, Omen, Sala, Boy, wait, Nachman, Elohim, the same, Santo, Hokem, Yeshua, the Spanish, the Santo, Hokem, Yeshua, Kronis. John Mashkin, Mashkin, the Taylor, Mashkin, the Vermitated. On one mailing, on one mailing, we call them Socha, and one mailing, we call them Socha. On the lots of them, on the lots of the high elbow, lots of the Shachas, Shanam, Marat, and the Shachas, and she don't know the acts of the name of the book. The lots of the Nach Adonai on high, the Shem Shach, the time, the Simon Sect, the Yuma, in Hazveni, the house, and the Sectus for Machalim, the Simon Lumen, the language, Mablas, the kindness of the Sam to a second Yahaba. Schools go on to know about the Lord, Mr. Milikachomi, and the Little Zali, Yom Shotem, and P. Zali, Zali al Elam. Mrs. Khan, Bibis Allah, Chotam, Charisha, the Shop, Tishmelacha, Bakitzoy, so he says, Sichacha. We hear the Yomach, we see the Hoshnes time, and the Lina, the Smela, Shochovit. You know, there's my Ami Yit, and Ami Borachas, Ami, Mashovan, and Nikabal is just to say, Kaddish Berabonon.
In the booklet before you, Shura, is a very powerful minor to Rabbi Tenenbaum, the Yastim of the Lubavitch Yeshiva, involved in the Lubavitch Yeshiva, that he wrote to the Rebbe that there was a Siyum of a Meseches made by Rabbi Ushbal, Rabbi Bukit, that learned ganz Meseches Kiddushin. And they asked the Rebbe, L'chaved the Siyum, if the Rebbe sends a letter, it would be a huge idut. And the Rebbe's answer was sharp and short, and the Rebbe said, and b'meila, if they chazer the had, what the meaning is, if they chazer the Rebbe's avort, we know that Tiftes Kashrus is with the Torah of the Rebbe. If they chazer hadron of the Rebbe's there. You want to be mechabed, Magid Shir and Chevra Shas, Rabbi Eppenheimer, to chazer hadron of the Rebbe on Masechta Yuma.
As Rabbi Yosevitz mentioned, the hadron is in the booklet in front of us, so we shouldn't go into it. Our rituals is a bit late. The Kitzur, though, the Rebbe talks about an inyan from the beginning of the Masechta and of the end, where at the beginning we talk about the Kohen Gadol has to be nosu, he has to be married in order to be able to do the avodah of Yom Kippur. And the idea of it is that there's the one way of looking at it might be that it's an inyan in the avodah of Yom Kippur. The other inyan of it, the other way of looking at it is that it's an inyan in the Kohen Gadol, that he's not a sholem unless he has beista zuishta. And then it goes on to develop the idea of why in that case, why the pasuk phrases it that way as beista rather than just saying straight out ishta, because the idea is that he should have the realization. He should feel by himself the idea that the purpose of having an isha, and what does an isha accomplish, is that it makes him a bias that only with a bakol she'en bias in an adam, and vice versa. That this makes that he's an adam shalom. Then the Rebbe goes on to talk about at the end of the at the end of the Masechta. So we see in other words the idea is we're talking about a maila, an etzem dika maila of the Kohen Gadol that's accomplished by him having bases of Ishtay. And at the end of the Masechta also the Rebbe talks about an etzem dika inyan that you have in a yid. As far as the kapara, where you have beyond what you have. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says you have by Yom Hazeh Yechaper that it's Sumay Shel Yom Yechaper, and Rabbi Akiva goes beyond that to say Ashreichem Yisrael, that it's an intrinsic thing, it's an atmistic yid, an atmistic thing of a yid that lifnei miyatim mitarim, that the Eibushter is mitarim a yid, and not only just in the way of a mikveh, where a person goes to the mikveh by himself. He doesn't need somebody else to do it for him, and where it's only mitaher for some kind of tumas, but even the zarakti alei from mayim Torah mitahartem, where it requires the Eibushter to take the initiative, and where it's mitaher from even the more severe kind of tumas. So Ad Kan B'Kitzur Nimratz is Divrei Harav of the Hadron. To point out something related to this then, so what the Rebbe is saying then is that ultimately we're saying it's not something specific of Yom Kippur, the Lifnei Ma'at Mitan and Mutar Eschem. Rabbi Akiva's Psukim don't refer to Yom Kippur at all. Every day a person is able to accomplish that. The Meseches itself is called Yuma, and what does Yuma mean? It means the day, meaning the day of Yom Kippur. But when we think of the word Yuma, when we think of the word Yuma or Yoma really, one Maimon Chazal that immediately comes to mind is the expression Kol Yoma v'Yoma Ovid Avidte. That every day is a Yoma, every day is a day when you can be poiled something new, and that's when a person is when you have people who wake up at odd hours in order to be able to come to a shir, or stay up late at night after harving a whole day in work, and they sit. And they sit in a shir. You have the Magidi, my fellow Magidi shir, who horava and put tremendous effort in every day. Kol yoma v'yoma, without a break. There's no vacation from it. There's no nothing. It's every single day. Kol yoma v'yoma. So every day becomes a yoma. Every day becomes a Yom Kippur for the person. And it's poil then, as was mentioned before. It's poil then that that hour of the shir and that time that it takes preparing it is now poil and turns the whole day into something else. I'll tell you, like with Yom Kippur itself, where the Rebbe explains earlier in the Sikha that we see that it's not just the special avodas of Yom Kippur that you have to have a Kohen Gadol Nasui. Once you have that it's the avodas of Yom Kippur have to be done by a Kohen Gadol Nasui, then that applies even to the regular day-to-day avodas, which usually don't have to be done by a Kohen Gadol at all. Still, the fact that it's Yom Kippur, the fact that you have the Kohen Gadol is on a higher level, is poil on all of those, that those also become elevated, and those also have to be done, and those also are done in the same way. The words we see in you look at the beginning, the first and last words in the Masechta. The first words are Shivas Yomim. Shivas Yomim, we always talk about the idea that 7 days is the time in which a person is transformed. You have for many purposes in Torah, we know you have to have 7 days. You have 7 days of Yom Tovim, 7 days of Tara, 7 days of a variety of things. A person makes that every day of their own is a Yuma, then it's poil on them. That Shivas Yomim, it's poil, it turns over their whole life. And what does the Masechta finish with? Sagi umaski. Sagi means to increase. It also means to walk. Loimasgina arba amas, for example. So the word sagi umaski also means to go. It means that this kind of thing makes a person, that a person makes every day into a yuma, into a kol yoma v'yoma, hovidabidje. It makes him into a mahalach. It makes him into that now he's... Just to mention also, sometimes you have people who are not able to make it every single day to a shir, but Akaponim, you have another yoima is Barbe Rav Chad yoima. Akaponim, a person may be traveling on the road for 3 months in order to spend 1 day in this medrash. That's also a big mile. Or you see Yom Yidroshim, the Gemara mentions on it. The idea is that eventually it should be transformed into that Saka Kol Yom Yom, that the person is able to be that the person is able to be there every day. And from that, we come to the Yoma, by Yoma Hu Yiyah Hashem Echad V'Shmo Echad Miyad Mamash.
We have a special guest, Reb Zusha Wilhelm from the Marbitze Teir in our Shchuna, in many, many ways. And Yarech Yom HaMamlachta, with Simcha B'Tuv Levov, the Suda sponsor, the Schusay. Please, Reb Zusha, share with us a part about this.
Ich habe die Sachen gewählt, also die 9 Tage, später bis Tesbor Buchedisch, zu machen als Ziel des Sechte. Und ich habe die Maße gewählt, dass es nur auf die Inni zum Marbe sein Simche. nicht wie in der Woche steht, dass man macht das Siyum zuerst mit Fleisch. Aber Rebbe sagt, das ist nicht der Kavone. Kavone ist, dass wir nicht als Ov, sondern wir meint sein, der alle Sachen, was Ov tut, besimche. Wir waren das Pekudi Hashem, wie schon mit Samche lebt. Der Emesse, die wichtige Simche ist Teure. Das mehr der Rebbe, was sie gewähren, und bei Tikimont, also sein, jeder Kibbutz, jeder Zusammenkunft von Menschen, so jeder Kihila, soll haben was sehen, jeden Tag für 9 Tage, noch bis zur Woche Chedisch. Siyum, Punkt ist da in von einem Minion Eden, an Ede Eden. Jede Eden hat Eile Molek, aber sie kommt zusammen an Ede Eden, ist da eine Schiene Eile Al-Gabeya. Es ist nicht, dass sie da nein, mit noch einer. 10 Eden zusammen ist eine Ede Schleimer. Und eine Ede Schleimer kommt zu als eine Schiene, was ist mehr wie 9 Yechide Yisrael. Und der ist eigentlich gebracht, wenn ich gehe lernen am Meseches, lernen a volle Meseches, wir noch lernen Schas, als nicht nur wir lernen Dach bei Dach. Wenn wir endlich am Meseches, und wie zu schreiben, wenn wir endlich Schas, ist dort der Eila al-Gabeim, ist dort der extra Ruach-Hatele, die Keuch-Hatele, was man hat, von dem muss man endlich ein doppelt schollen. Ich habe gehört von einem gewählten Sinner, der gesagt einmal, als da in Medrash Pinchas steht. Medrash Pinchas ist von Pinchas Koritze, hat gesagt, als der Pinchas Koritze, in Medrash Pinchas steht, als jeder Dor hat sich sein Yitzhahara. Und die Yitzhahara von unserem Dor ist 2 Sachen. Eine Sache ist, die Yitzhahara lässt nicht schaden. Man darf lernen einmal nach. Wie viel sagt man doch nicht so viel immer leid? Jeder Mal hebt man ein neues Sefer, ein neues Sicher, ein neues Pedig. Lass dich chasen. sagt, Chase lieber, hast du gelernt. Es steht in ihm, was für Chazor, wie sie gewinnen einmal mehr welche Pomim. Der zweite Yitzhahar ist, ein Yitzhahar, was lasst nicht endigen. Lasst nicht endigen. Ist aber kommt zu einem Siyum von einer Mesechte. Und wie ich mit Siyum von Shas Kulei ist, hat nicht nur Gäuwe gewähnt, nur kann sein, man hat gewähnt, der Yitzhahar. Der Yitzhahar, was lasst nicht chasen. Sie dort die Werk von Lernen, an der Chase, die hat Blatt, was man gelernt, wie es geht weiter. Und sie dort die Yitzhahar, was lasst nicht endigen, am Ende Mesechte, wie sie kommen zu dem Ruf, ist wie mit viel gesagt, alle, ist dort der Eile al-Kolonna. Und Beis, als es dort der Yitzhahar, was lasst nicht endigen, hat man es gewonnen. Der Gewonnen Yitzhahar ging weiter und weiter. Die Gemara sagt, es seht euch auf alle, als in der Klasse steht auch im Posik, als Thomas ist dort nicht Seiter, und sie nehmen die Mai Mamorim, wird es gleich schatten, es rein in den Burg und gleich schatten. Aber es sagt ihm nicht, es kann wohl sein, es wird nicht schatten. Aber was? Sagt die Mischner, die Gemara teilt zu, ist, weil sie hat Schussim. Und die Gemara fragt, was für das Schussim hat sie? Viele sagen, sie hat Schussim Teire, sie lernt doch nicht. Und die Gemara sagt, die bekannte Gemara, sie hat Schussim, weil sie schickt ihre Kinder, ihre Männer, ihren Mann, und sie wartet für den Mann. Das ist Schussim, von dem, was sie hat. Und die noch die Gemara, die Masbe noch an der Kude, eine starke Kude, wenn die geht Teire. Als Teire ist Magina und Matzla. Teire ist Megen und Matzel. Und die Gemara ist mal, was ist zwischen Megen und Matzel? Megen ist Shas Limud und Matzel viel Acher Limud. Aber mit Odelen am Sechte, sie sagt Yuma, mit Odelen sagt Sukkot, mit Odelen Frier, aber einige Sache, viel mehr halt, wie jetzt geht man in den Gas. In der Teure ist Megen nicht nur B'Shas behalt beim Lernen in der Mitte des Medrash, nur auf viel Matzl, auf viel Beiden, der Leosik Beis, ist die Teure des Matzl. Weil der Rebbe ist Masbe in der Meime, bei der Arte von Esokim, Adinische von Oroch, was darf ich verstellen, was mit Kochen? Ich stellt sich nicht vor den Guff von dem Chatam Kochen. Ich stellt sich vor, der Talmud Chochem hat in sich Teure. is wenn man gaat in de Teile, dann man stellt sich mit Talmud Chacham. Mit der Loschen ist, bei Antischleim, man stellt sich weg, weil der Teile, der lebendige Teile, der lebendige Yitzchayim, stellt sich weg. Ich will auch danken, im Argen, was gibt es Schuss von Liebe der Teile, mit der Rabbin, also sein von mir davor, die ewige Helfentage, also sein so leischorischem Klau, und zu allem, was lernen weiter, sagt mir Chazak, und ist Chazek, geh weiter und lernt noch einmal Sechte, man darf nicht gucken, was auf weiter Weg, man guckt nur Daf bei Daf, wie es mir geht, endlich einmal Sechte weiter und weiter, wie es mir machen, einmal Sechte, aber ganz tägliche Balper, und durch die Ruhe, wenn wir zukommen, zu den Gili von Schiach, und wir kennen Herren, Teire Chadosh und Iti Teitze.
Okay. In der Arum von Teira and the Simcha, the Suda von Teira, is a riesige Sache. And bemela, wir wollen abdenken, die alle, was legen rein, die Temcha und Maushar, und nicht in unser Fall, die Temcha sind die, was kochen sich nicht nur in der Arum, nor in the Indian, the Primis allein, talking about Yidden that made this event happen and make many events happen, whether it's Shurim in Gemara, Shurim in Chassidus, Shurim in Rambam, specifically with the new Rambam map that opened Rambam to Koloi Lum Kuloi, Yidden like Reb Shlomi Greenwald, like Rebel Eunuch. I want to introduce to get in. They asked me to put as their representative the Varker Rav Avram Yishai Koenig on behalf of Tziri Adaf to address the event.
Beshiz kol ha'kuel ha'kodesh hazeh, Chasidim ha'yekurim. First, I need to start and ask everyone mechila over here. I made a very big mistake. This is not the first time that I'm involved with the Siyum Meseches. First, I would like to mention that I started this together with my Choshev Etata, the Yokeru Zechroina Levrocha, Reb Shlomo Tzvi, Reb Chaim Yeshaya. And one night, after we went together to a big Siyum, we said to each other, there's organizations for wheelchairs, there's organizations for every tzedakah tzvek. But there's no organization if a person wants to learn a blood Gemara, he wants to call in. I need a chavrisa, I need a good sheet, we need a few dollars for a magid sheet, we need a few dollars for a siyum. So I told my father, you know what, lass uns zusammen, we'll call it Zeirai Hadaf. The young generation, Haitu Lena, Daf Ayomi, Daf Omed Gemara, andere Nyonim. If someone needs chizik, there's a telephone place, there's a number where you can call, and we'll help out. Moire V'Raboisai, part of my drusha tonight is to introduce. Rebbeinu was talking about not learning alone. I'm not going to be magzim, how they say. You know, there was once an Israeli, he said he knows every Hebrew word, every English word. There's only one word in Hebrew he doesn't know how to say in English. Wenn gefragt welches Wort, sagt Maximum. He said the einzigste Wort he doesn't know how to say in English. I'm not going to be magzim on this person. He is the biggest chavrisa to Klal Yisrael. Harav Reb Avrom Pinchas Berkovich Lita. He's sitting over there. Everyone here tonight will be getting a new Gemara, a beautiful Gemara, a Meseches Sikha, beautiful pictures in the back, updated 3D pictures. This season alone, any person that wants a Gemara, an open door. Nicht nur in der ganzen Welt also. Jede Kehille, every Schchone that wants a Gemara. I texted him yesterday that I'm short with 40 Gemuras. He said, "I ain't 60 Wort, he doesn't know how to say in English." I'm not going to be Magzim on this person. He is the biggest Chavrisa to Klal Yisrael. Harav Reb Avrom Pinchas Berkovich Lita. He's sitting over there. No problem. Buy more. Es soll sein. In Azoy ist es mit der Yoim bi Yoimoi. Moire wir Aboi sei. Sukke. Es ist das a lange Mesechte. In Azoy endet mir noch a Mesechte. Der Beschefer soll ihm geben Koyach, lahakdel teure laadire, and to provide the Gemuras benaikel, and the Beschefer wird helfen, the alle Tanomen am Erduem, will be my Lityoishe for him in his time, and Spuche, Lizborech bekala broches u amiris batoile. At the same time, my kesher over here to this community is through a Segel HaChabire, Reb Erel Yonik, Reb Shloimi Greenwald, Reb Zalmi Kohn. I was involved with them with the Sefer Torah, which was Torah Shebeksav, and now I'm a partner with them in Torah Shebal Peh, with this beautiful Siyum over here. I can only say about them one thing. Torah Magnei Matzle, now we get to see they were not only there, when sie gemein Hatzolle, to be there for Klal Yisrael. They're there, L'chol Dovishe B'Kedusha Mit HaShmeichel, Ibegegeben, and ready to assist, B'Momen, B'Guf, the Bashefer zu helfen, and soll sein Zeuche, des Chus HaTeure soll ich begleiten, in Avade, der Rebbe mit alle Rebbes, wollen sein am Eilitz Yoshe verrenk alle, auf dem, was geben sich also Ibe, Shaloi Almanas Lekabel Pras, Norak Machmes Libam Atoiv, Lishem Sofik, you will see a tremendous return. Schar Boilam Azeh, Ashrecha V'Toivlach Boilam Azeh, Boilam Abu. Ich will nicht reden, there's still a program, but ich muss mich bedanken, du, Moire Ver Aboisai, to Mereine Rebbe Eliezer. I only know him through a phone call, but one thing I see, that Baruch Hashem, Kanaina Hore, I'm jealous of Crown Heights, that you have a person like Rebbe Eliezer, who sits do, is Ibegegeben. Ich kann auch viele nicht herausbringen, meine Gefühle, my emotions to share with you. So involved. I for sure thought I'm talking to someone my age. I'm definitely could be my father. But can I know zusammengebringt das a Eulam? Bedeumeloi, Harav Achosid Reb Avruam. Sucht mich schon, I see his mentality. The first thing he told me, next time we got to take a bigger haul. Mit auf die mehr, Moire Ver Aboisai, this is only the beginning. Weil there was his Toyim Gemure, there was his Toyim Rambam, there was his Toyim Teures Hashem, Meshivas Nufesh, this getting a good feel. Pekida Hashem Yeshorim Esamchai Lai, elevates us. Will ich mechabed zam, Mereiner Bavrum Pinches should share with us. Adavar Teure Lekovet Amamed. In Moire Ver Aboisai, like I started, I made a big mistake. Ashreichem Crown Heights. I did not think it would be such a big turnout. I did not bring enough Gemaras. I went to plenty of Siyum and they told me there will be 100 people. I bought 75, I went home with 40. I made a big mistake today. Ashreichem Talmidei Chachomim, Ashreichem Chasidim, Baruch Hashem, Crown Heights La Platz, Teure, Chesed, Tville. And Emir Hashem, for all of those that there won't be, if you go on to dafayoim.com and you request the Gemara, you will get it delivered to your house. We've done that in the past. Baruch Hashem, Eina Choyzres Reikam Lefanecha, Yeda Eina Tebakim and Gemara. And thank you for giving me the opportunity, Rebbe Eliezer, a gewaltiges Chis. Ich nehme es nicht verlacht, it's my big Zechia. And thank you for all of the Ma'arganim, in Val Kulam, the Magida She'irim. Giving a daf sheet is not an easy sheet. It's the hardest sheet to give. It's every single day. There's no vacation, there's no chazorah. Versteht sich das chazorah, but every day the Magshi's job is to come prepared with a new sheet. And the Magshiva Yashir could listen very carefully. Is this Ziegegreit oder nicht? And if it's not Ziegegreit, they're risking their sheet. Before they give a sheet, they invest hours to explain clearly the Gemara, to explain clearly the Machloikes. Der Bashefer wird den Batzulen, Keifel Keflaim, mit Kol Abruches wa Amiris Beteure, mit Reiner im Avrum Pinchas.
It's a big schus. It's a big schus for me. My Charusa, Rabbi Yudah Levin from Ocean Parkway Chabad Center tells me that the whole world is either Lubavitcher Hasidim or potential Lubavitcher Hasidim. I don't know if I can qualify as a Lubavitcher Chosid, but I hope I do qualify as a potential Lubavitcher Chosid. So Baruch Hashem, as Rabbi Koenig said before, Baruch Hashem was mazaken me that I was able to help giving out hundreds of Gemaras to different chugim, different Hasidische Chatzerim all over. And now that we have a schus to do the same thing and help a little bit the Lubavitch Lengdim, it's a Talmud Torah Derabim that says Chiz Godol Mo'oid. And it reminds me of the shiur that I learned with Rabbi Yudah Levin in Parshas Pinchas, where the Rebbe is asking a kasha, what's this Parshas Pinchas all about? What's the Musa Haskell that we can learn from Parshas Pinchas? We know that what Pinchas did was kanos, and halacha ve'imoyim ken. If someone would come along in a similar situation and would come to ask a Rav or an Abezn or a Dayan, what am I supposed to do in such a situation? They would tell him not to do what Pinchas did. So the ganze Parsha is, what's the Musa Haskell that we can gain from Parshas Pinchas when we know that halacha ve'imoyim ken? You're not allowed to do that, and nobody would paskin that you should do what Pinchas did. And the Rebbe writes, Bekitzer, as far as I was able to understand it, is that there are many situations in life where certain things arise, certain situations, certain challenges, certain opportunities arise. And a person would think to himself, who am I? I'm a nobody. You see Gedolei Yisrael are not reacting. You see Chachumim, Nevoinim are not taking charge. So who am I? Says the Rebbe, since you understood that there's a void, and you understood that there's something there to accomplish, that means that this is your tafkid in the world. And that's the Musa Haskell of Parshas Pinchas, is that every one of us, when you see a situation, you see an opportunity, you see a mitzvah that you can do, instead of making cheshbonos, why isn't someone else doing it? It's because it was revealed to you, the opportunity of that mitzvah. And you should seize the moment and do that mitzvah, because that's your tafkid in life. That's what the Rebbe writes, is the Musa Haskell of Parshas Pinchas. I come together to such a beautiful crowd, and I'm thinking of a shiur that I once heard from Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, Rabbi YY, where he types from the pasuk, Hinei ma'toiv ima'noim, shevasachim gam yochad. And he writes that you don't see in the Torah anywhere anything that is toiv and noim. Because in general, toiv and noim don't go together. Noim means it's sweet. It's geschmack. It's pleasant. What is noim? Noim is a cheesecake, a babka, rogelach, chocolate mousse, ice cream, donuts, potato chips. These are all delicious. These are noim. But are they good? They're killing Jews all over the place, these things. So it's noim, but it's not toiv. On the other hand, what is toiv? Toiv can be wheat grass juice, which costs $25 for 3 ounces. It can be celery juice. It can be barley kernels. These are toiv. These are healthy foods. But are they noim? I don't think so. So, but then you see that what is noim is lav dafke toiv, and what is toiv is lav dafke noim. But hinei ma toiv ima noim, Sheves Achim Gam Yochad. When people get together, Klal Yisrael get together from different chugim, and they are inspired together, and they're productive, that's Toiv and Noim. That's the combination of Toiv and Noim. And I feel that by participating in such a beautiful Siyum with Lubavitcher Hasidim, I told my children many times that Chazal say, Gedolim tzadikim b'misosa yosim b'chayein. But it's a mama Chazal. It's very hard for a boss of Adam to understand what that means. Because when the tzaddik was here, you heard his shiurim, and you went to his tish, and he was giving you eitzes and all that. So how do we understand Gedolim tzadikim b'misosa yosim b'chayein? It's a very hard concept for a boss of Adam to understand. But in Lubavitch, it's clear. Because you see the amount of cities and the amount of towns that Chabad has reached. You see the shluchim, how many places shluchim have gone and traveled and have turned things around in Makoimis where there was no Yiddishkeit, there was mamash a midbar. And there's more places, from what I understand, more shluchim and more cities and more representations in all over the world than there was b'chaim chiyusoi. So you see clear, Gedolim tzadikim b'misosa yosim b'chayein. So I want to tell you a thought that I heard from Rabbi Socha Friend, Rashiva from Baltimore. Yes, he says an interesting concept. We know that in Shivos of the Tammuz, the Mishnah counts 5 things that happened in Shivos of the Tammuz. Nishtabra Luchos, Botal Atomid, Luchos were broken when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Shemayim. Korban Tomid was bottled. Hofka Huir, they broke through the Chayma of Yerushalayim. The Soraf HaPoistemes Es HaToyre, the Hemet Tzelem Behechel. These are 5 things. They asked Rabbi Friend L'Choyre, we understand the enormity of the tragedy. Soraf HaPoistemes Es HaToyre, the verbrennte Teure. And Meforshim I explained which Teure did he verbrenn. There was a Sefer Torah that was written by Ezra HaSofer in his own hand, and every Sefer Torah that was written after that, there were Magia from the Sefer Torah of Ezra HaSofer, and that's the Sefer Torah was not verbrennt. That's a horrible tragedy, a horrible chorban. Hamid Pesel, Hamid Tzelem Behechel, that's a gewaltige chorban. Hofko Weir, that was the beginning of the destruction, the beginning of the elimination of the independence of Israel. That's also a terrible tragedy. Shtabra Lucha is Etzbalakim, the bunch of Geshim, the Lucha is terrible. But where does Bittul Atomid, where does that come in? Bittul Atomid is a carbon, I mean, there were other components that they were makriv. Why does that fit into the level of these other 4 that we mentioned? And Rabbi Socha Rand brings a medrash, a very famous medrash, that doesn't have a makoyer. The medrash is brought down in Ein Yaakov, the beginning of Ein Yaakov. Medrash says, Motzosi posik koilel yoyser. I saw a posik which is koilel kol ha-Torah kula. What does it?